Live from WTOC, the Southeast News leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Welcome to The News on WTOC Plus. I'm digital anchor Jude Bankley. We continue to follow developing news out of the Low Country, where an officer and a suspect have been hospitalized after an early morning shooting in Hardeeville. Our Aaron Dixon has been live at the scene throughout the morning. He joins us now here on WTOC Plus. Aaron, tell me a little bit about what we know and what the scene looks like right now.
Well, Jude, right now the scene is still very active for a shooting that happened at 4:30 this morning. We're now a little past 10 a.m., and the scene is very active with officers from the Hardeeville Police Department and from SLED, as you can see behind me. And they're investigating a scene where officers were called to a Shell gas station off of Exit 5 on White Hardy Boulevard. And at that scene, there was a shootout between the officer and the suspect. Now, both were taken to the hospital. We have been told that the officer is in stable condition. We have not been given an update on the condition of the suspect. Now, we have reached out to SLED for more information, and at this time, the only thing they can really tell us is that they are investigating. Now, anytime there is a shooting involving an officer, SLED or the state agency takes over, and in this case, that would be SLED. So they're going to really look at the case to see whether or not the shots were warranted. And so right now they're still on the scene collecting evidence. And like I said, Hardeeville is still here. And they've just been kind of walking through the scene to see if they're missing anything, to make sure that they have every possible piece of evidence and pictures and videos to make sure that they can do the best investigation they can. And of course, we're going to bring you the latest throughout the day on the news at 3, 4, 5, and 6, as we're going to continue to learn more. And we know that the Hardeeville Police Department is also possibly thinking about releasing some more information as we move into the day.
And something we'll continue to follow throughout the day. Aaron, I know there are 2 different Shell gas stations in Hardeeville. Which is this specific one? And are police asking folks to avoid the area, or kind of what's the situation with that?
So this Shell gas station is right as you get off Exit 5 coming off I-95. So this will be the first Shell gas station you see. It's near the Super 8 Motel, the Quality Inn and Suites, and also a Red Roof Inn and the Burger King. So, yes, and the officers right now are asking people to give law enforcement room to investigate. So they're asking people to kind of avoid the scene and kind of try to find another way, whether people are going into work, whether they're getting off of work, you name it. They're asking people to please give officers all the room they need to finish this investigation.
All right, so still very much an active scene despite the shooting happening a couple hours ago at this point. Aaron, thanks for joining us here on WTOC Plus, and we will check in throughout the afternoon, throughout the evening, as we continue to learn more here at WTOC. Well, we are going to continue with the rest of our major headlines today here on WTOC Plus, because the Georgia Bureau of Investigations has now identified the man who was shot and killed by officers in Savannah's Plant Riverside district yesterday. Mark Dennis Wibby Jr. was killed yesterday. Agents say Wibby was 27 years old and from Seabrook in Beaufort County. The GBI says after Wibby refused to put his gun down, Savannah Police Department officers shot him. No officers were injured during the incident. Now, around 1:30 yesterday afternoon, SPD responded to a 911 call that Wibby was waving a gun outside a business on West Congress Street. Officers made contact with Wibby and ordered him to drop the gun. They say Wibby refused and continued walking north on MLK Jr. Drive toward the Riverwalk area. Police got Wibby isolated in one of the expanded Riverwalk sections. They say Wibby began pacing, refusing to comply with commands, and began walking toward people passing by and officers with the gun in his right hand. They say he then reached behind his back with his left hand toward an object in his rear waistband. 5 Savannah Police Department officers fired at Wibby, hitting him multiple times. Medical aid was given, but Wibby was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, we spoke with the general manager at Poe's Tavern who saw all of this play out.
As the guy leaves the parking lot, 2 of the cops pursue him. One releases his taser on him, and they're trying to, I guess, reason with him, but you can clearly see that he has a handgun in his hand as he's walking away on our camera footage.
Police had the area shut down for a little over 2 hours yesterday afternoon and evening. Our crews there then saw the GBI collecting evidence. You can see those forensics agents on your screen right now. The GBI says this was an isolated incident and there's no threat to the public. The body has been taken to the GBI Pooler Medical Examiner's office for an autopsy. Well, Savannah police are investigating a shooting that left 2 men injured at an East Savannah grocery store. Police say it happened at Capitol Grocery near the intersection of Pennsylvania Avenue and Capitol Street. When WTOC arrived at the scene, we saw a large area in front of the store taped off as a crime scene. Police say the injured men were taken to the hospital. We are working to learn more about their condition. And take a look at this. Officials at Fort Stewart and Georgia Southern University say an Army Chinook helicopter made an emergency landing on the Georgia Southern Armstrong campus last night. No injuries were reported. I was actually the one who filmed this. I saw the helicopter take off a little before 6 yesterday afternoon, flew above the campus. This was a field kind of behind the dorms on the far side of campus. Took a second to find the area, actually. We should also know that the investigation into this is ongoing. Again, no injuries were reported after that emergency landing. In state news, Governor Brian Kemp has placed Georgia under a state of emergency. The state's emergency management center opens tomorrow afternoon and will stay open through the incoming storm that's expected to impact many parts of the state. 500 National Guard troops have also now been mobilized as well. County leaders across the state are finalizing preparations for this weekend ahead. And of course starts with staying on top of the changing weather models and forecasts, preparing roads, and making sure plenty of emergency personnel are on call to make any rescues needed this weekend. Road preparations are one of the top priorities, specifically in Middle Georgia. They say with the rain we've seen all week, it's complicated when the transportation teams will prep the roads. However, the DeKalb County Director of Public Safety says no matter the weather, the roads will be treated.
Really, once we discovered that the storm was coming in, has had several meetings, one even today, just preparing for the storm. That includes our fire department, our police department, and our public works that are all getting ready for the storm.
And as the Peach State braces for the storm, UGA is encouraging students to go home today after classes end, citing the potential for crippling conditions caused by the winter storm. University officials say they anticipate campus being closed on Monday, and they will have an update for students and staff by Sunday afternoon. We've talked a lot about the state of emergency and this incoming winter storm here on WTOC and WTOC Plus the past couple of days. Again, we really want to emphasize the worst of this will be seen in Middle and North Georgia. The latest forecast models show really north of I-20 is going to get it the worst. Here on the coast, we could see freezing rain Saturday and Sunday night, specifically in the Statesboro area. But here on the coast, we're not expecting quite as severe impacts, just cold temps, potential freezing rain. We'll bring in Dylan Smith at 11 to get a better look at the forecast. But again, this is really a storm we're seeing in other parts of the state, but we want to keep you informed about this if you do have family or friends or students at UGA who are bracing for a pretty severe storm. We're just trying to keep you informed about that here on WTOC. Well, staying in state news, 2 Republicans running for Georgia governor are now openly clashing, and the clash is pulling the 2020 election back into the spotlight after the Secretary of State refused to testify before a Senate ethics panel. State House reporter Abby Kasoris was at that meeting and has more on what happened.
The man that lawmakers wanted to hear from the most didn't show. The Senate Ethics Committee met, but Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger did not attend. This fight is playing out inside the Republican Party as GOP leaders line up for the governor's race. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones is accusing Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger of failures in election oversight. It centers on Fulton County's admission that hundreds of thousands of ballot tabulator tapes from 2020 were not properly signed, a violation of state rules. Jones says the election should have never been certified. At the same time, State Senator Randy Robertson is pushing a resolution calling on Raffensperger to turn over Georgia's full voter roll to the Justice Department. Lawmakers say they wanted Raffensperger here to answer questions publicly.
We all work for the people, and we need to be able to answer to the people.
But in a letter to the committee chairman, Raffensperger told lawmakers Wednesday night he would not appear on Thursday. He explains the DOJ's request requires releasing sensitive voter information, including social security numbers and driver's license data, which he says is illegal under Georgia law.
I always do my job, always follow the Constitution. And if they want to play politics while they're in session, that's up to them. But at the end of the day, voters are going to look at who's actually working to protect them.
What happens next is still an open question. Lawmakers could compel Raffensperger to testify, or they could pursue a dispute with the courts. While the meeting is over, this clash between two gubernatorial hopefuls seems like it is not. At the state capitol, I'm Abby Kasouris.
And for more news from under the Gold Dome, you can tune into Governing Georgia this afternoon right here on WTOC Plus. It's a show we host at 2:30 on WTOC Plus and the WTOC Facebook page during Georgia's legislative session. We had our first show last week. It's about 15 minutes breaking down the major bills moving through the Georgia legislature and explaining really what they mean for you, your family, and your community. Again, you can join us right here on WTOC Plus at 2:30 for this week's Governing Georgia. All right, well, the start of tax season, unfortunately, just a couple days away, and we want to remind you how to spot some tax scams. Officials say to be wary of scammers offering unusually high payouts. If it sounds too good to be true, it likely is. You should also watch for threats or urgent demands to pay. Check for odd or misspelled words. The official IRS site is irs.gov. Authorities say the IRS generally contacts by mail first and only texts or emails with your permission. All right, we wanted to end this show with some good news this morning. Way too much going on in Savannah lately, so here's something that should end us on a high note. Rankin community members came together to help an 83-year-old woman return to her newly renovated home yesterday after it suffered severe storm damage a little more than a year ago. Peggy Rouse's home was first damaged in September of 2024 when Hurricane Helene sent a tree crashing through her roof. The snowstorm last January and following rain continued wreaking havoc on her home, eventually making it uninhabitable. Shanna Smith with the Effingham Emergency Management Agency contacted Miss Peggy with a family promise so she could have a safe place to live. And after learning about Miss Peggy's situation, many local businesses and community members came together to repair Miss Peggy's home, a 7-month process that took donated time and resources to complete. Smith says that if Miss Peggy had never reached out for help after that first storm, yesterday's Welcome Home celebration wouldn't have been possible.
If you need help, ask, because you don't know until you ask, and you don't know who's going to be on the other end of that phone call and who can actually put things into place and make this happen.
Really nice story there. You can see Miss Peggy walking in to her newly renovated home. How nice is that? All right, and with that, we're going to wrap things up here for the news on WTOC Plus on your Friday morning. We'll be back in just about 45 minutes for an extended look at your weekend forecast, again, as we track major storms hitting other parts of the state, not necessarily here in the coastal empire. Today, actually, weather-wise, looks beautiful. Get outside if you can. Until then, you can always check the latest updates at WTOC.com. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and here's Local News Live.